Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Forum. I'm Mark Clay, one of your facilitators, along with Mary Johnston, Natalie McGarrett, Mr. Steve Johnston, Dr. Thomas Moore, and Ms. Natalie McGarrett and Jackie Edwards Walter. And we have with us District 4 candidates. And they will be presenting this morning. And I think everybody here, do we have anyone here for the very first time? Everybody is familiar, so you know the rules. But what we like to do is start off with the word of prayer. Mr. Patton, go and lead us in the word of prayer.
Good morning, everyone. It is a blessing whenever you come to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday morning forum that you're blessed. This morning I was blessed in a parking lot with fresh vegetables, so I'm very appreciative to my benefactor, Mr. Lilly. He constantly brings produce for everyone. But as we're going to this prayer this morning, I'd like to bring up the scripture. If you have an opportunity to read the book of Acts, it talks about the formation of the early church, how it started in small groups, just like we have here at the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday morning forum. And particularly in chapter 2, verse 42, it indicated that they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine, in the fellowship, the breaking of bread, and the prayer. And that's what we're doing here. We're in fellowship, we oftentimes break bread, and now we're going to pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this opportunity once again just to be in your presence. We thank you for the assembling of the community leaders that are gathered here this morning to continue the discussion of their platforms and what they envision for the city of Charlotte and how it is to grow. God, we ask that you just bless everything that's conducted here today, that the question and answer sessions would be fruitful, that would not turn into something that is counterproductive, that we would be able to get the gist of the information that they wish to share. As we do each and every Tuesday morning, Lord, we ask that you just continue to bless these committed facilitators that give freely of their time each and every week to come and present quality, informative programs for us as a community and as a whole. So let's remember, let's continue to be steadfastly and committed to being in prayer and in fellowship. These and other blessings we ask in your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Once again, we'd like to welcome our candidates as well. And we like to make sure that everyone is on point. I think everyone realizes what we're trying to do here is to make sure that we get to as many people as we possibly can that have questions. We'd like for you to stay respectful and ask your question within 30 seconds. Natalie, our timekeeper, will raise the sign when your time is up, and we ask you to respect that. We would ask that we will open with our candidates just introducing themselves and just tell us a little bit about your platform, what you're running on this time. And once you do that, you can talk even more about whatever it is that you like to share. But I'd like for you to just talk about your platform initially, and then come back and just talk a little about yourself and other things that you'd like to share with the audience. And everyone knows that people come in respectfully and they leave respectfully. And we'd like to keep it that way, is everybody respect. Now, the candidates will have at least 3 to 4 minutes to talk initially. And then we will take you by, you raise your hand. Whoever raised their hand first, we try to keep that as orderly as we possibly can. We will call on you to ask the questions in 30 seconds and allow them at least 2 to 3 minutes, since it's only 2 of them, to give the answer. So without any further ado, we'd like to start, I guess, with Ms. Johnson.
Thank Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Renee Johnson, Renee Perkins Johnson, and since 2019, I've had the honor of serving District 4 on Charlotte City Council. I want to thank you all for the invitation to be here this morning. I want to thank you all for coming out this early. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. As I stated, I've been on council since 2019, and since 2019, I've run on three things: equitable housing, strategic and responsible development, and public accountability. And I have delivered on that. I've championed the source of income discrimination ordinance. I've helped to advance a historical $100 million housing trust fund. When you talk about public accountability, I pushed for transparency. I pushed for more openness in our processes, such as the community area planning, the UDO, the zoning plan. I've pushed for more community engagement. And strategic and responsibility and responsible development. I've championed the infrastructure, the city's only infrastructure meeting, which led to the conception of our strategic mobility plan. I'm honored to serve District 4. I ask for your vote and your endorsement so that I can continue to serve and move District 4 forward. Thank you.
Green light. Green light.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I mean, on this beautiful Tuesday, you could have been anywhere doing anything, but you decided to come here and listen to us share our visions of the city, and for that, I commend you for doing that. Civic elections, local elections are often low turnout affairs, but your local council member is the one who's the most important when they deal with issues like trash and development, the airport and infrastructure. These are important things that get done on a daily basis, so I am glad that you're here. My name is Will Russell. I'm running for Charlotte City Council District 4. And I'm running because we need to bring some professionalism, and we need to bring some problem solving to our council. We've seen over the last couple of years that we've been derailed from the issues of housing and transportation with personal animosity and animus. And we need to change that. Because when we delve into the personal, we forget about the politics that are local, and we forget about our community, which we are elected to serve. Like you, I am here because Charlotte is a wonderful city, whether you came for work, whether you came for pleasure, for retirement. This is a great city, and we want to keep it great. We can't do that without your help. We want you to be engaged. I want to reach out to our communities. I want to keep our streets clean, have transit that is reliable and efficient, and housing that's affordable. That's why I'm running. And again, my name is Will Russell, Charlotte City Council District 4. Thank you.
Renee, did you want to share any more information other than what you just shared?
Sure.
Okay, yes, you have some more time. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay, 3 to 4 minutes, okay. Again, I've been on council since 2019. I've served on the Housing Great Neighborhoods Committee. I've served on the Budget Committee. I've served on the Governance Committee. I've served on the Triple E Committee. And there's so many accomplishments that, as I stated, I championed the source of income discrimination ordinance. I can remember being in a meeting and saying, I think every developer who accepts a dime from the city should be required to accept housing choice vouchers. And that led to the motion, that led to the ad hoc committee, that led to the ordinance for source of income discrimination. When you talk about, just last night, we're going to be in our rezoning, the signs, we're going to have QR codes. I've been pushing for more transparency in this rezoning process for so long. That's one of the accomplishments. The ASL interpreter at every meeting, I was a part of the group to champion that so that we can have more inclusivity in our council meetings. There's so many accomplishments. I've led one of the city's only historical denials in District 4 outside of the Lexington subdivision when the neighbors were opposed to it. I've created the District 4 Coalition, which is a coalition of neighborhoods and neighborhood leaders who come together and they unify and they meet with developers, they problem solve, they talk about issues throughout the city, and it leverages the power in our community because each community works together and grows together. So I'm very proud of the record, and again, I ask for your support. I've been a voice on the council. I've challenged the status quo, and I'm not afraid to challenge that status quo. And because of that, I have this reputation of being anti-development, but I'm not. I'm pro-resident, I'm pro-responsible development. And when you talk about the infrastructure meeting, the city's only infrastructure meeting in 2022, I champion that. With all this explosive and massive growth, we had never taken the time to slow down to talk about infrastructure. So infrastructure includes safety, and includes streets and roads, and includes schools. It does include our impact in schools. And we talked about that last night. So we need to grow smart and we need to grow responsibly. And I'm that council member. I'm a council member that's always been a consistent voice for the people because I listen to the people. So I ask for your continued support so that I can continue to do the work. Thank you.
When I moved here more than 20 years ago, I fell in love with the city because of the vibrancy and the communities and the people. And over the last 10 years, I've been very active in my community, working to figure out problems because I saw so many different things that needed to be done, and I could have waited. I could have called and emailed and sat back, and I didn't want to do that. Perfect example, on exit 26 and 485. 485 opened 10 years ago, and we started getting truck traffic between 77 and 85. But what that also brought was an increase in cars and an increase in trash. And that whole interstate exit full of trash day after day, and we would call the city, and the city said it was the state's responsibility. We called the state said it was the city's responsibility. And all the while, the trash was piling up. They would come out and cut the grass and cut the trash, and it looked like snow all the way down the interstate. And I said, you know what, we can sit here and we can continue to complain about it, or we can do something about it. And 4 years ago, I got a group of my neighbors and we went out and picked up that trash, and we've done so every month for the past 4 years. We picked up over 500 bags of trash. Speaking of development, there was a rezoning in my area that was gonna bring some apartments across the street from a grocery store. And that rezoning was not gonna require any crosswalk, which means that the residents who live literally across the street from a grocery store would have to drive. And that made no sense. So we looked at it and we asked for a traffic circle because we knew we were in between two traffic lights and it would be too short to add another traffic light. We went to CDOT, and over the course of a year of advocacy and action, we got a stoplight approved with a crosswalk. So we took all that traffic off the roads and we made it a place for people to live. Now it's interesting that you talk about development. My opponent has talked about the Lexington rezoning, and she is correct. That rezoning got denied, but what she didn't tell you is just a few months ago after that denial, that property was sold and it's being developed as we speak with over 100 townhomes that, guess what, that residents and those people who live in Lexington have zero influence over. Zero. Because it is a by right development. So when you're talking about development, you need somebody who understands that that's the issue of the day. I understand that with my construction background. And we need to push forward to make sure that we have predictable growth, because the largest investment you'll ever make is in your home. And so you need to know where your home is and what's going to happen around it, because that can impact the value and impact your wealth. So these are important issues, and these are issues that I will address. And I look forward to working with you when you elect me on the 9th. Thank you.
Mayor, Rebecca, I can answer it.
We can give
Okay.
the opportunities, since we don't have a lot of questions right now. So.
Okay. Thank you. My opponent's absolutely right. There was a development months later that developed by right because of the UDO that my opponent supported. That my opponent sat on the UDO advisory board. That my opponent sits on the planning board and supports massive development. I fought, and there's a Lexington resident here, I fought for responsible development, but and they were aware of the consequences. They were aware that if this was denied, something could be built by right. The reason it was built by right is because of the UDO, which I fought against. So that is what happened. And even that development is less than would have been if it had been built. So thank you.
Okay, first question, Ken.
I described the council meetings to someone else earlier to the meeting as a show. I won't tell you how I described it. I will ask each of you if you know what the ethnic makeups and the median incomes are your particular district, and to what extent does your representation reflect the interests of those percentages? That's for both of them,
So your question is, what is the ethnic makeup of District 4?
The ethnic and median income.
I would have to pull that up. I'm sorry, I don't have that information handy in front of me, but that is available, and I can pull it up immediately. But how does that represent, how do I represent District 4? How do I represent District 4? District 4 is a very diverse and dynamic area, and I will, again, pull up the stats before we leave here today. But I know that it's a working class neighborhood and highly educated. As I said, diverse. I have to get the specific statistics for the minorities, but I had the pleasure of representing it for the past 5 years. You think I would have the information in front of me, but we deal with so much on city council, and that's just not information I have right in front of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coons. If I remember correctly, I believe District 4 is somewhere in the area of about 60% African American, maybe 35% white. Of the voters, of the 117,000 people that live in District 4, roughly 88,000 of them are Democratic voters. So I do know that makeup of our council, of our council district. As far as the income, it is solidly middle class. Our numbers track very closely with the area median income of about $102,000 a year, which is about what the average family in District 4 makes. And the average home price out there is roughly $450,000. So we've got a district that is very middle class. It's kind of in the middle. It is not highly concentrated areas of poverty, but we're also not like Valentine or District 6 where you've got a high level of high earners in our area.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Tommy Watson. Quick question for you guys. Oftentimes when people are running for office, we hear about their best. Tell us a little bit about your worst leadership decision that you made, and how did you pivot to make it right?
That's an excellent question, Dr. Tommy. Part of leadership is acknowledging the good and the bad, and the things that you did great and the things that you did that weren't so great. One of the things that I still am a little frustrated with as part of the decision that I made in community, in conjunction with my community, had to do with a rezoning that was in the area. And they wanted to turn it into apartments, and we wanted to push back and do something a little bit different. We really wanted more retail instead of residential. And we had some negotiations, and we couldn't get it to come to pass. But we did get the developer to commit to providing 9,000 square feet of retail space that we thought would fill up very quickly and become a vital part of my area. That was about 5 years ago, and unfortunately, that retail space is empty. And so I'm disappointed that, we missed the mark on that. I'm disappointed that we weren't able to get that retail and really push to make our area more vibrant. But I know in the future that will provide more opportunity as we continue to grow. So that's one of the things that I learned and that I took to heart and realized that, you want to be perfect, but sometimes being good is just as productive. So thank you for the question.
For me, a leadership decision, I can think of a rezoning in my area. I work, as I stated, I work very closely with neighborhood leaders. And my opponent was a neighborhood, is a neighborhood leader in the Prosperity Village area. And there is a gas station that I supported based on the recommendation of a request from the development. And looking back, that's something that I might have reconsidered, because we're getting pushback now from residents, and I don't know that fits in the residential area. So since then, and that was early in my career, since then I've become a lot more diligent in looking at the developments, looking at it from a cumulative perspective. I'm one of the few council members who asked for a map of development to take a look at all of the development in our area. So I've just become a wiser council member. Yes, I listen to the community, but just being more strategic in the decisions that I've made. Thanks.
Jazz.
Good morning.
Morning.
I wouldn't mind knowing a little bit more about you all. So could you tell me a little bit, like give me a bio a bit, where you're from, and then what's your background? I heard you say something about construction. And then, sorry, last question, last part. What are you telling youth to engage into this election?
Thank you, Jess. That's a great question. So just a little bit about me. Will Russell. I was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. Went to college at Auburn University, where I got a degree in construction management. And it was at that point in my life that I knew I was not going to stay in Alabama. And so, if you familiar with the geography, the next city over is Atlanta. We all know how that turned out. I didn't want to go to Atlanta. And so I figured, well, there's another city that's within driving range called Charlotte. And it was a beautiful city, and I'm glad I moved here over 20 years ago. I came here to be in commercial construction. I've worked for 20 years in commercial construction, doing some of the largest projects you've seen in Charlotte, like the Mint Museum. I've done a lot of the campus at CPCC's main campus downtown. Recently, I've transitioned into building affordable housing, where I've been responsible for building over 500 affordable housing units here in Charlotte alone, as well as other parts of the Southeast, like Rome, Georgia, and High Point. So I think I have a wealth of experience when it comes to construction, dealing with affordable housing, which is something that I do and understand deeply, which is a skill that honestly nobody on current council has. So I think I can bring that experience to bear in order to help us work through our backlog of over 25,000 housing units that we're short. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about the end of your question about the youth. One of the things I want to tell the youth is that I want to get them focused, because when I see people under 25, there's so much energy there, and there's so much vitality. They want to be a part of our community and our decision making. They want to do so many different things, but they haven't been focused because we haven't paid enough attention to them. I mean, as somebody in the generation directly preceding them, we haven't mentored them as well as we should have. And so I admit that culpability, and I want to work to change it. I want to tell them about, look, the economics of your generation look dire. We're spending a ton of money and leaving you with debt. We're making it hard for you to finance your debt out of college. It's almost impossible to buy a house now. And, I see so many kids who are consumed with doom spending because they feel like, I'm never going to buy a house, I'm never going to have any money, so I'm just going to live my best life and spend it all while I got it. And we've got to change that mindset, because they are going to be the inheritors of the decisions that we make. And if we're not guiding them, it's going to be a disaster for them. So that's what I'm doing to motivate the youth, getting to understand their questions, getting to understand their concerns, and then working with them to direct that energy in a positive change.
So I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I've been in Charlotte for 10 years. So I'm from Columbus, Ohio, which was the 14th or 15th largest city, which is why I'm not so dazzled by this growth. Why I'm not so dazzled by being the 14th or 15th largest city, this biggest city. But in Ohio, I worked in public service. I worked for the state of Ohio. I was a realtor for over a decade. When I moved to Charlotte, I expanded my nonprofit, or sought to expand my nonprofit, which was reentry housing. But here, there's not a funding module for reentry housing. And the market's a little different. So I started with supportive services. So my organization, Triumph Services, my nonprofit organization, we provide peer support, which is behavioral health services, substance use services, and I also have a niche in being an advocate, a national advocate for brain injury survivors. So I bring that level of compassion, working in the community, working with homeless individuals, working with individuals on fixed incomes, knowing that if you're on SSI, receiving $771 a month or $800 a month, affordable housing is not $1,100 a month. It's not $1,700 a month. So I'm that voice on council that's going to continually advocate for individuals in that 30% AMI area. So I bring the nonprofit experience, also real estate. I understand real estate development, but I also understand that there are human beings on the other side of that real estate development and all of this construction. So I have the nonprofit experience. I started the organization in 2009. I'm a small business leader and also the real estate background. As far as the youth, we know it's better to build strong children than to repair broken men. So I believe in mentoring youth. I support nonprofit organizations that do mentor youth. I run on the name Renee Johnson because I bring my maiden name with me. I bring my mom with me, my story. I know that it's not where you start, it's where you end up. So I truly, truly believe that. And so I believe in mentoring children. We support it as a council, the only youth mental health organization called the Blessing Center. So I believe in pouring into our youth and helping them to have the confidence and the tools to be able to lift themselves up. Thank you.
Care.
That was my question.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Good morning, Robert Collins. Finally, I get the opportunity to have someone in here that I live in the area. So I'm in District 4, and I'm in that area where the average houses are $500,000. Let's call it the way it is. And a lot of growth is going on in our area. And all the new homes from ranch style above are starting at $400,000 to $500,000. And so I keep hearing affordable housing. How's $500,000 affordable, first of all? Secondly, with all this growth, and there's a lot of townhomes, single family homes coming in, where is it that community centers are being spoken of? We talk about the youth. What are we going to actually do? Because we bring in all these expensive homes. They're bringing kids in when these people move, 100 people a day move into Charlotte. What are we going to actually do? I'm tired of hearing the rhetoric. I've been here for almost 20 years, and the only person I know that's done something is Miss Carlini. And that's just the way it is. We have a sports complex coming to the east side, because I moved from Independence area, but what are you gonna actually do?
That's a great question, and I hear the frustration in your voice. And you had a very detailed question, a lot to unpack. So I'm gonna start with the affordable housing. You're correct, $500,000 house isn't affordable, even for people who make good money. I mean, you gotta make 6 figures to make that note. Let's just call it what it is. But affordable housing has a problem, and I wanna break it down just a little bit so you can understand it. When developments get built, the developer can fund his project based on the rents. So if he has a shortfall, he can simply raise the rents to what the market will bear, and if the market can pay for it, he can go ahead and get his financing and move forward. When you're dealing with affordable housing rents are capped by the federal government. So that means you can only raise your rent so far. So if you're doing market rate and you need 100% rent, 100% financing, you can raise your rents to 100%. But if I'm doing affordable housing, I can only raise my rents to 80%. So I've got a 20% gap in order to even build that unit, which means I need government assistance. Especially my opponent talked about the 30%, that is considered ultra low, which means they need help via state, city, and federal in the form of vouchers or in the form of some assistance in order to make that work. So we're already at a deficit when you're trying to develop affordable housing. So that's the first thing. You've got to have either a source of income to fill those gaps, or you've got to have cheap land. Case in point, our Faith in Housing program that we have here in Charlotte, I've been fortunate enough to work with several churches that had surplus land that were able to build those affordable units because the land cost was negligible and it closed that gap. All right? When you're talking about doing something, look, we're in District 4. We are the last really frontier of green space in Charlotte. And at the rate we're growing, people are coming and they're looking for somewhere to stay and they're putting more units on that green space. And to your point, those children need somewhere to play. And part of what I've worked with development in my area was the creation of public parks as a part of the development as it comes in, because I know our kids need a place to play. And I have 2 small children, so I understand it. The community centers, to your point, we need to invest more in them. That's going to be a partnership with Mecklenburg County because the city doesn't do Parks and Rec, but we should be advocating for more of it. We need more green spaces. Children learn better when they play than they do in the classroom. And I'm cognizant of that. I try to get my kids out as much as possible, and we need to focus on that. And so one of the things that I want to focus on doing, sorry it's a long answer, is I want to get into our development and our zoning code and make some changes that will allow us to build different types of housing that are affordable. In Charlotte, we do 2 things really well. Multifamily. How many of you guys have seen a multifamily complex in the last day or 2? All of you. And we do single family well. But those are the 2 extremes. And there are housing products in between that, to your point, will cost less than $500,000 that will be affordable for people who really need it. So we need to make sure that we're making the changes in order to create those smaller scale units that can be done for less money in a quicker fashion and will provide housing for those who need it. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your question. You mentioned Mrs. Ivory, Mrs. Canty. What you need to know, it took voices like mine on council to get that deal passed. We fought for that item. If the status quo would have had the large development to pass, but because of voices who weren't afraid to challenge the status quo, we fought. And so that's why they had to collaborate. So you have to know that. When you talk about pricing in Charlotte, much of the problem is corporate landlords. I worked with District 4 residents, and there was a pilot, and so there's a training, it's on-demand training, HOA, how to update your bylaws to combat corporate buying. You can look it up, just Google HOA corporate deterrence, and that started in District 4 from a conversation with residents, and we were talking about that. So I connected them with the city, and there was a pilot to develop this training. And so now we need to control that. In Chestnut, the neighborhood, they updated their bylaws to deter corporate buying, and they also included a residential clause. So now all the corporations have to sell their properties in Chestnut, a neighborhood in District 4. And so that's part of what the coalition does. They spread information and they share that information so other neighborhoods can learn how to do that. And so when a buyer is not competing with these corporations, that's what's been causing the market to balloon, is the corporate housing. I believe there are 80,000 corporate homes in Charlotte. So Councilmember Mayfield and I, we met with NACA to talk about how we're going to deal with that. And the neighborhoods updating their bylaws is a huge tool in order to combat that. You talk about community centers. District 4, we have, thanks to the county, we have Mallard Creek that's just recently redeveloped, also the library. But another thing that I do when I'm meeting with developers is require different concessions. You know, what are you going to have? How are you going to help the neighborhood? So are there amenities in the community for the children? So it all works together, and the county does have a lot of that responsibility for community centers, but in District 4 we have the Mallard Creek community center that just opened, the library is gorgeous, and working with developers to ensure that they're developing amenities for the youth. Thank you.
Okay, we have an online, question.
Okay, I actually have two online questions. I'm just gonna ask one right now. And both of them are for, City Council Member, Renee. The first one is, it's a little long, I'm gonna try to read this. Regardless of how one might feel about the settlement to our police chief, it is documented that his leadership was discarded and his job threatened by a former council member. Why did you reward this former council member by voting for his wife to fill the vacant seat instead of voting with the majority of your colleagues for the current appointee?
Unfortunately, as a woman, we're judged by the work of our husband. So I can separate the two, but it wasn't about rewarding the council member. It was about voting for a voice that was going to continue to challenge the status quo. You can say a lot about Mr. Bakari, you can say a whole lot about Mr. Bakari, but he's not here. But he had an independent voice. And we honestly need more independent voices on council. Disagreement is not dysfunction. And there's that narrative out there. It's okay, you all vote for leaders. It's okay to bring 11 unique voices. And we can synergize and we can work together. But you don't want everybody walking to the beat of the same drum. Thank you. So you don't. But to say that we were rewarding Mr. Bakari by voting for his wife, I think that's a bit unfortunate that we as women have to be judged by the work of our husband. Secondly, the ones that voted for Mr. Peacock, you see what Mr. Peacock did. He's running against them right now. So he's running, he didn't keep his word. So ultimately, I don't regret that decision.
Another one, but I'll ask later.
Carlene.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Renee and William are not gonna speak.
I said good morning.
And Renee, thank you. You were a voice of support. My question is, we just recently, those who are members of the Black Caucus had a vote. And I felt that the vote was flawed. Wait a minute, even though I felt that way, they voted to endorse what the Black Caucus said, and I lost, so I move along and say I support it. Can you hear me? Okay, but my question is, knowing that it was flawed because it was more than one vote, I'm just curious as to why we would support something that is flawed. And I don't know if you did or you did not, but we need to own up to things that are not right, correct them, and move forward. So that's my question is, what is your opinion?
Ms. Albert, thank you for your question. That's an excellent question. To answer directly, I was on your side. I thought that the vote should have been discarded. Mainly because when you are voting, that is an act that is of trust. You are trusting an organization with your voice to carry out your will by saying, I vote for X or I vote for Y. And we need to make sure that the systems in place are accurate and reflective. Regardless of whether you win or lose, we need to have a system that accurately reflects the membership, that accurately reaches out to the membership, and then accurately totals those votes so that there is no doubt in the process and doubt in the trust and doubt in the confidence. Because once you do that, you've seen that. We've seen that from our president, who tells us on a daily basis that everything is rigged. And what we don't want to have is the solidarity of the Black community challenged by that same narrative of things are rigged. So I understand why you're upset. And I feel like we should have done a better job and redone that vote so that it would have been accurate and reflected the will of the membership of that organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Candy. Good morning. I've been endorsed by the Black Political Caucus since 2019, and that's an honor for me. In my opinion, the body has spoken. For those of you who weren't there was a motion put before us on how to handle that, and the majority of the body voted the way that we did. So we had the chance to address that, and the body did speak. I think I still, obviously I support the Black Political Caucus. It's a highly sought after endorsement, and I'm honored to have it. Thank you.
Only 45% of the people voted to move forward. That's not a majority.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, for both candidates, starting with City Councilmember Johnson, play like I'm dumb. Can you really break down the UDO, what the challenges of the UDO are? What are some of the main things that are affecting your district, particularly with the UDO, and how you would enhance or improve said policy of the UDO?
The UDO is the Unified Development Ordinance, and it's a plan for the entire city. The challenge I had with the UDO is it's provision 2.1 allows duplexes and triplexes on any lot, on any single family lot that's not protected by an HOA. So I had a problem with that. As I stated, I used to sell real estate for over a decade, and I believe that location matters. We had a development last night, affordable housing, and we talked about that location matters. So yes, we need a plan. Yes, we need an ordinance, a cohesive ordinance throughout the city, but I did believe that location matters. What the UDO is the ultimate plan. And then we have the community area plans, which are the smaller plans throughout the city, and that's where we are now, is looking at those community area plans. And what it does is it defines the changes in the different areas. So, for example, I have a couple of the ordinances here. So what that means is 20% of certain areas are going to change from what they look like now, and it's very specific per the area. You can look that up online, and I can show you where to do that, or anyone. You can go to the City of Charlotte, our community area plans. Is very specific to your area, but it's the vision for the city's growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. So one thing I want to put out front before we address the UDO, there are two things that we're talking about here, the UDO and the 2040 plan. There are also two other things that you need to understand when it comes to that. A policy and an ordinance. An ordinance is a law. That means it has to be followed. That's what the UDO is. It is a law. It must be followed. The 2040 plan is a policy, which means it's nothing more than a recommendation. You don't necessarily have to follow it, and it's not enforceable by law. So the 2.1 that my opponent has referenced is actually in the 2040 plan. That's not in the UDO. The UDO does allow for an increase in density for duplex, triplexes, and quadplexes. That is true. But some of the other things that I think that are of larger concern to me are the spacing requirements that go into building single-family homes. When you look at the zoning, which is an N1A, you have to have setbacks in certain parts of your land that get eaten up in order to appease this law. When you do that, if you have a quarter-acre lot, which is standard here in Charlotte, you lose 55% of your land to those setbacks. That means you can't do anything with it, you can't develop it, you can't change it. Those are the things that are contributing to our affordable housing crisis, because if you're eating up land that essentially can't be touched, then that means that you have to spread out. And as you spread out, you have to build more roads. And in order to build more roads, you have to raise taxes because those roads have to be paved. They have to have streetlights, sidewalks. They have to have infrastructure for them to work. We need to look at our policy so that we can create, and I have done this, to create smaller scale housing, infill housing. Charlotte inside of 485 essentially is built out. Everything that's inside of 485 is small scale, 5 acres and under. You're not getting the 50 and 60 acres of development anymore. So we've got to change our mindset. We've got to change our mindset. And there are things in the UDO that can be changed immediately through text amendments, which I would like to do to include affordability requirements that are based on sizing and spacing. One of the things that I would really love to do is to say, if you are building an affordable housing component to your housing project, that the only setback that you'll have will be from the street. And then you can develop the rest of your property as you see fit, because if I can get more units on that land, my cost goes down, and when the cost goes down, the rent goes down. That's how it works. When we restrict that, we reduce the amount of units, cost goes up, and the pain for everybody that lives here goes up. So those are things that I would do with the UDO.
Okay, Ayo.
Good morning. Ayo Johnson, Executive Director of Mental Health America, and like Robert, I also live in District 4. But I have more of a question. We're in a contentious climate right now, and now we're in an election cycle in Charlotte. How are you each taking care of your mental health?
That is an excellent question. Man, when you are on the campaign trail, it is a grind. And anybody that tells you that they're having a great time and everything is peachy is lying to you. It is tough. How do I deal with mental health? One, I try to make sure that I give myself at least an hour every day to be in reflection and prayer with my Lord, to get away from everybody and everything, and to refocus myself. And then the other thing I do is I have 2 small kids who keep me going. So when things get rough, I got 2 reminders every day, every hour, every minute that help me refocus and take care of my mental health. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. I work in the mental health area, so I know how important self-care and mental health is. I wish I had 1 hour a day for prayer. I should. I wish I did. But my faith is important. You know, this is a campaign, but in the big scheme of things, it's not the most important things in my life. My family, my husband, my children, my grandchildren. So I'm grateful. So I focus on just being grateful. I do listen to a lot of gospel music. I do worship on my way over here. You know, it's just about priorities. So I don't have the time that I wish that I had for self-care, but my faith is very strong, and setting priorities, and just doing the best that I can. Thanks.
April.
Good morning. Good morning, Councilwoman Johnson. I'm in your district, you already know that. Good morning, Will.
Good morning.
I do have a question, but it's not for you because I know how you roll. But my question for you, Mr. Russell, is do you have a valid interest in being in District 4, or that's a way for you to be able to go back in? Because you're a developer, to redevelop, like you just said, the housing and things like that. Are you do you want to redevelop that, or do you have a valid interest for the people in that area, our area?
Thank you. So to answer your question, I've lived in Charlotte 20 years, and the only place I've ever lived in Charlotte is District 4. So I have roots there, and I have a vested interest in what goes on. Most of what's going on in the district is redevelopment, is new development. And to your point, yeah, I work in development. I work in affordable housing. That's what I do. I build it. I work for a developer and being a construction manager for development. It's important. It's easy to vilify somebody and say, oh, well, they're a developer. They're just out here taking money from the community and doing bad things. But you know what? I could have worked for a market rate developer making great money. But you know what? One, I chose to be in affordable housing. Number two, If I was out there exploiting the community, I don't think I'd be in here interviewing for a part-time job. I would be out there making deals and exploiting the community. I'm here because I have a heart for public service. I've been doing that in my district for over 10 years. I've been picking up trash. I've been organizing free movie nights. I've been working with the UDO. I've been working with the community area plans. I've worked with the immigration. I've worked with the police. I've worked with Charlotte Department of Transportation. If that doesn't signal my commitment to the community, then I don't know what else could be done to say that I believe in that area and that I'm working to make it better.
Okay. Mitchell.
Good morning, I'm Ricky Mitchell, I live in District 4 as well, and I have a couple of things. One is that Mallet Creek High School is at 120% capacity. If we're still building houses and apartments all around District 4, which is gonna make the county have to build another high school real soon, because Vance is already at capacity, Chambers is at capacity. Mallet Creek is already 20% over capacity. It's gonna explode even further. Also, Mallet Creek Highway from Prosperity to 485 is a 2-lane highway. It's already congested and overcrowded. And I know that's a state issue, but still that needs to be taken into consideration. As you on the zoning board should know those things and prepare for those things and advocate for the state to widen that, to accommodate the houses that you are proposing. And being on the planning commission, you should have seen that you would be alerted us to that and fought for that. But it's happening and nobody's fighting for it because the road is supposed to be widened in 2030. By then, there won't be a space from Prosperity to 485. Okay, my question is, and you all have talked consistently, the whole council has talked consistently about affordable housing, but how about a living wage that they can afford the houses? That's my question. What's the plan for that?
Mr. Johnson, keep going first. Alternate. Go ahead.
So the city council, we've raised the minimum wage for city employees to $24 an hour. I was one of the individuals on council. First of all, when you talk about school overcrowding, we had that discussion last night. And one of the council members, he said, we need to stay in our lane. This is our lane. Because schools, we need to consider all of that as we're rezoning. We talk about crime, we talk about upward mobility, education is the key. So we absolutely should consider that, and that's why I consistently talk about cumulative impact of development. But as far as livable wages, I was one of those council members that fought to move the agenda forward for the union, to be able to talk about it. And we can't control what private employers pay their employees, but we can talk about our procurement policy, and that's what I was fighting for. We could set standards in our procurement policies that organizations that we contract with, we can have a standard. So we can certainly raise the standard for our contracts, and that's what I wanted to do for the union, was to bring that forward to the agenda, to be able to discuss it. Can we revise our contracts for the folks that we contract with at the airport to require a minimum wage? So it's going to take that kind of creativity, but we can't be afraid to talk about those things on the agenda. And one challenge we have on the city council, it takes 6 votes to move something forward on the agenda if there's any opposition. In my opinion, that's censorship. You should not have a vote before the vote. County commission doesn't have that. So the issue is that I was fighting for to increase wages for those who work at the airport, was just to be able to talk about who we're contracting with. So that's a way, when we bring in employers for economic development, we can require, we always ask about the lowest wage for employers that we contract with. So that's how we can raise the standards on the individuals that we contract with, and that's how we can do that. We also lead by example in paying $24 an hour. Thank you for the question.
We know quite a few of you that are here this
Really,
morning. Okay, I'm just a minute. But when you stand, we'd like for you to at least give your name in the audience. Give your name, because we're trying, it's kind of hard for us to keep up with the names of the individuals that are asking the questions. So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Russell.
Thank you. That's a good question, talking about wages. So citywide, you're right, we've got an issue with livable wages. The wages are too low, which I'm gonna get to in just a minute. But if you're talking about district specific, as we just mentioned, the average house costs $550,000. It's not too many people living in that in District 4 who are working minimum wage jobs living in a $500,000 house. That's just me speaking plain here. But to your point, what are we doing? Okay, well, the state minimum wage is $7.25. It has not changed since 2009. The city did raise their wage to $24 an hour, which is commendable. I commend Councilwoman Johnson for doing that. But that only affects 9,000 of our 950,000 people who live here. Even if we were to include the unions in the airport, we would bring that number to roughly 12,000. What are we doing for the other 930-something odd thousand people who are affected? I can tell you what I don't see. I don't see anybody going to Raleigh to advocate for a rise in minimum wage. I'm pretty sure that Councilwoman Johnson has not done that. Because if that was the case, we would have heard more about it. So if we want to talk about how we're going to raise wages, yeah, we can do things to a degree for private business, but it's going to take a state level effort in order to raise the wages of everyday workers. That young man or young woman who is handing you your chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A, that young man or young woman who's cleaning your hotel room that's making $7.25 an hour. The construction workers that I see every day out there tying rebar and hammering nails and wood together, that's going to take a state level issue, and that's going to take an active plan from the city council, from the county commission, from the board of education to all go to Raleigh and say, we demand something changes. And the fact that it hasn't changed in almost 20 years should tell you where the priority is when it comes to livable wages in the city of Charlotte for our local officials.
Okay, we have Michael who has a question, and after him, we have Joseph, and then we have Pat. So in that order, but we need for you now to 30 seconds for the question and 2 minutes for the answer for each one of them.
Okay, my name is Mike Lilly. You know, I keep hearing affordable housing, I keep hearing wages, I keep hearing all these things. What is y'all's role, or do y'all play a role in bringing businesses into Charlotte where people can get a job? If I'm out of work, a $5 affordable home is unaffordable to me because there's no way to find a job. So what roles are y'all playing to try to bring businesses in that will pay good wages to help people afford these homes?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Lilly. That's one of our primary roles. Thank you for shifting that. Yeah, we work to bring in, to drive the economy for the city. That's a primary role of city council. So we've had deals where we brought in Honeywell, Vanguard just recently moved into District 4. So, and when we have those economic deals, a lot of times in closed session, that's one of the reasons that we are allowed to go to closed sessions is for economic development deals. So we work consistently bringing in large employers. I can't, consistently, if you read some of the headlines, the employers that we brought into the city, I know, like I said, District 4, Vanguard recently, that was a huge, before it was Centene, and Centene backed out. But that's our role. So I can think of Honeywell, I can think of, I have to pull it up, we're always giving businesses business incentives to bring them to the city, because we know that individuals do need a living wage in order to be able to afford the city. And like I said, part of those deals are, what is going to be your minimum wage, your lowest salary? So those are questions that we ask and that we require for those large employers who come to the city. So we have business investment grants where taxes are deferred, that we allow employers, we give those incentives to bring them into the city. So that's a primary role. Thank you for the question. And we do that very, very often. And there have been some large deals that we, as a council, have been a part of. Mr. Graham, who's here, thank you, is the chair of our Economic Development Committee. And that's their mission, to seek those types of deals. We know that employers and industry is what's driving the city, that we're a leading city. So yes, that is one of our deals, and we work very intensely to bring in large employers and make those types of deals to move the city forward. Thank you.
Okay, we do have quite a few questions. So we need a minute, after you get your 2 minutes this time, Mr. Russell, a minute to answer.
Sure, I'll make it quick. One of the things I've been focused on personally is increasing the number of locally owned businesses where I live, because it's been proven that a business that is owned as an owner that lives locally will pay more for their workers. I live on exit 25, off of the exit 26 on 485. And if you know anything about that, we're between North Lake Mall and Concord Mills. So that means we're not gonna get any of the chains or any of the big national stuff out there, because they've got 2 places they can go. So we made the decision as a community to chase after locally owned small businesses. And as a result, we've got an independent juicing bar that's located there. We had a guy who was opening his coffee shop through a coffee cart on 485. And we helped drive business to him so that he could actually grow his business and hire another employee. We have a locally owned pizza shop. We were chasing a bagel shop and ice cream shop. Unfortunately, have fell through, but we continue to look for people who are entrepreneurial, who want to come and take a risk on us, and then we do what we can to support it. That's how we do it. I'll do it personally. I'm doing it personally now. I'll do it even more on council.
Good morning, Joseph Margolis. I live in District 4 in Dorado. And my question is about the referendum for the transportation, the payback, the referendum that we'll all be voting on. I studied that the other day, and one of the things that I noticed is that the membership makeup, I don't know if either of you read that or anybody else has taken time to read that, but membership makeup, by the way the appointments are, Charlotte's only really gonna end up after all the requirements of who Charlotte has to appoint among their 12 that they give. They're gonna have 5 votes out of 27. So with my question, based on that, and it's a very consequential thing, transportation, public transportation, and there's gonna be some needs. Why did Charlotte support that type of ballot initiative being put on the ballot, where it takes away so much of Charlotte's power to control our future for our hundreds of thousands of residents? And should I vote for that?
Okay, let's do this. 30 seconds. I'll raise this hand right here. And it's 30 seconds if you don't see her sign. And then 1 minute for the answer, because we would like to get people's questions in.
Joseph, thank you for your question. Unfortunately, that's called politics. When you are in negotiations and when you're working with the state, there's gonna be some give and take. And part of the give was, in order to get the ability to have the referendum, we had to cede some power. And that means that we had to reduce the number of seats. Now, is it perfect? No. Is it great? No. But it's a start. And we need to at least put something in place so that we can have the ability to grow our transit system rather than not having anything and piecing it together like we've been doing.
One of the important functions that we're going to have is the appointment to that authority. So if this does pass, I want to ensure that it's a transparent process that voters trust it, because there is a lot of community opposition for the plan, or so the jury is still out for me, because I'm hearing from the community there are some loud voices, some important voices who are opposed to it. So I think we need to listen to those voices and get this right. I don't believe in just voting for it because here's something, let's do it. So I want to make sure we have this right before I would support it.
Good morning. My name is Gerald Pat, and my question is for both of you. Ms. Johnson, what is the plan B for the council if the vote does not pass? I grew up in an environment where I was told, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So what is the plan B if it doesn't pass? And Mr. Russell, what would you do differently, or what would you propose if the plan does not pass?
That's a great question. I think we would all entities would need to go back to the drawing board. It would have to go through the different committees, through our governance committee, through our economic development committee, through the transportation committee, and talk about a plan B. There's a lot of emphasis on passing this. We have to think about that. I think it's up to $3 million that's being spent trying to influence us to pass it. So, but it's up to the voters. So if it doesn't pass, I think that we could go back to the drawing board and bring something forward that's more amenable to the minority community. And we'd have to come up with something, because the infrastructure is needed. As I said, I champion the infrastructure meeting. We need help. We need help when you think about District 4 along Mallard Creek, needs to be widened. You know, the development you see, there's still more you don't see, right? So we do need help. We need roads widened and better transportation in a big city. So we'd have to come up with something.
Great question. Just a point of fact that the infrastructure meeting that she championed, it took 2 years to find that video, and last time I checked, only 449 people had seen it, so I don't know how historic that is, but that's neither here nor there. To your point, what would I do if the transit tax failed? So number one, the first thing I would do is identify where we have employment centers in the city, places like Uptown, Valentine, University City, the airport. And then I would say, how do we connect those? What roads or what modes of transit connect to those areas? And then once I've determined that, I would put as many resources as I could to building the infrastructure to support the connection between those corridors. Because you know what? Between those employment corridors are where people live. And if they can get on a bus or get on a train or get on a taxi and get there in the same amount of time or less than a car, then that is beneficial to everyone. So that would be my plan B. Focus on where we got jobs, focus on where people live, and then build connection.
Dwayne.
How you doing, guys? My name is Dewan Savage. I own Savage Construction, Savage Land Company. I live in District 1. My question is, as a home builder, how do you keep saying affordable housing. Water and sewer taps are almost $20,000, plus you gotta pay for permits, plus you got all this tree safe permits, different stuff that you gotta add. By the time you get to your construction cost, you've added $30,000 onto the actual bill. I build in several different cities outside of Charlotte where it's more liquor. So what is your, it's coming. So what is your plan to really make a housing affordable? To me, affordable housing is housing under $300,000, not $500,000, $600,000, not $600,000 homes. Thank you.
So I'm on the housing and on the Great Neighborhoods Committee, and that's one of the areas that we talk about is housing affordability. There are numerous incentives from the city to help with construction costs, to help make housing more affordable to build. We've talked about different, even more incentives, because we understand that. So that's one of the areas that we're working toward as a council is what incentives can we give to builders and to developers to reduce some of the requirements, such as the height and the tree save and different initiatives that we can negotiate to help make the construction more affordable.
Mr. Savage, I think you hit on a great point. One of the projects that I did that was for affordable housing, we had to do a private water tap. So we had to bring in the water, tap the water line that was in the street to feed the units that we had. $125,000. And that cost is going to be passed on to the residents of that unit until that mortgage is paid off and probably beyond. So number one, we really got to think about how we're developing and how we're gonna build stuff in the future, building new is gonna cost more and it's gonna raise those tax rates. The other thing that we gotta do is we gotta simplify the regulations. The regulations between what the county wants and what the city wants are now in conflict. I deal with that every day. I've got multiple permits that nobody knows why the permit was pulled or who was supposed to pull it, and I can't get my inspection because I can't figure out who pulled the permit. Those are the things that add costs to your project. You know that well. I just spent $40,000 on permits. Thank you.
Okay, Ken.
Hi, this is Kimberly Owens. I am running for City Council District 6, so obviously that's where I live. But I was listening to both of you talk about affordable housing, and you referenced the phrase 80,000 to 100,000 homes have been taken out of our network of affordable homes and are being owned by corporations. You also referenced the fact that there are incentives that sometimes are given to companies. Do either of you have any of these sorts of investments, or are you aware of whether that's appropriate for city council members to own some of these homes and ideally take them out of the network of homes that are available for people to buy?
That's an excellent question. And I can tell you that as a member of the Planning Commission, we have to sign an ethics and disclosure agreement that details that. I can tell you that I don't own any home outside the one I live in, and I don't own any property inside the city outside the home I live in. So I think that's a great question. That would be on the disclosure form that you got to fill out. And I would hope that all of our council people are filling that out and taking it seriously.
I don't own any property other than the one that I live in. And we do have to disclose any properties that we own. But I would think it's okay that a council member owns property if they're renting it out. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything that prohibits us from having a home. As I stated, I had a reentry home that I rented for individuals, or had for individuals coming home from prison. It wasn't, I didn't own it, but I think if we're adding to the solution, I think that that's okay.
Barry Green Jr. out of Minnesota, and I have the honor to take my kids on the train due to that access. I hear a lot of frustration towards the transit referendum. My question is, we have the I-77 North toll lanes that have not delivered and they're very expensive. We're now looking like we're okaying the I-77 South toll lanes, incentivizing sprawl. So why is there so much pushback on the transit that we have here in the city, but we incentivize those who live furthest from Charlotte? And what are you gonna do about that?
That's an excellent question. To your point, that 77 project that you're talking about that would add private lanes from uptown to South Carolina is right now estimated to be $4 billion. $4 billion. I mean, that's essentially all of Charlotte's, the city of Charlotte's general fund to build 10 miles of highway. And for what? That money would be better spent on buses, or better yet, bus stops, which we don't have, because our bus stops are simply signs on a patch of dirt. But we want to say that we are serious about transit, but we dehumanize people who use transit by leaving them outside next to a pole and then hope that the bus will come. But we can spend money to a foreign organization and not spend that money and reinvest it in ourselves. I think there's a problem. If we had $4 billion to spend on transit and buses and bus stations, man, we would be a world-class city, and that's what I want us to be. Thank you.
Okay. You said, why is there so much pushback with the transit plan? Was that the question?
Why are we incentivizing sprawl over those who live right here in the city?
Because there are people that still drive, and we're a large city, so we do have to have alternatives for individuals who do drive cars. I mean, I know that we're planning for a city in the future, 2040, 2050, but we also have to manage for the current situation. So for the current situation, there are still people that do still drive, that drive through our city, traveling through our city, that adds to the traffic as well. So I think there's a balanced approach. We can't be so focused on one approach, because we have to consider alternatives and individual solutions.
Okay. Blanche.
Dr. Blanche Penn here. I was gonna talk about housing, affordable housing, because I want my kids to have a place to stay, but I'm gonna go back to seniors. And we do need to drive. We don't bike, so don't try it. And we don't do some of the other things. So how are you gonna make it even better for us? I mean, it's hard for seniors out here, and it's not affordable either. Because I was trying to move out of my home and get something else. It's not affordable for us either. You want us to be riding the bikes and walking and carrying on, but we still have to drive. And everything is going up where you have no parking, no nothing, no nothing. So can you help us out, please? Some answers.
Thank you for that question. Earlier, my opponent says in District 4, the homes are $550,000, so people aren't making minimum wage. The home properties, the values have increased. So there are individuals who spent $160,000 or less to buy their house, and their house might be worth $550,000, but that doesn't mean that they're making an income of 6 figures. Many people aren't. And the average wage in District 4 is $80,000 a year. So we have to consider that. We have to consider that with our taxes. I spoke to someone in Hidden Valley. His taxes are increasing, but his income is not. So we have to consider that. We need to consider that as we're talking about this transit plan. When the city increases taxes, when the county increases taxes, we have to realize incomes have not decreased the same as the the property value. So we do need to consider that we have staying in place options. And we also need to take a look at capping the taxes. When the areas are increasing, we need to really look at programs, how we're going to protect seniors and staying in their homes. We currently have staying in place options, and we need to continue things like that. Thanks.
Dr. Penn, great question. Talking about seniors, that's important to me. I'll give you a little example of that. There is a senior living facility that was built a couple years ago in my neighborhood. And it's a wonderful facility, it's brand new, and the residents seem to really enjoy it. But the one thing I noticed is that they didn't have any outdoor amenities, right? It was all parking lot. So I often see residents come outside and just kind of mill about the sidewalk with nowhere to go and nothing to do. So I saw a piece of land that was across the street. It was about to be redeveloped. It was a rezoning. I approached that developer and asked, hey, can you give a piece of your property that you can't use for stormwater? Can we turn that into a sitting area for the seniors who live across the street so they can get out and get some fresh air? I was told that the District 4 Coalition had already made their negotiations and that wouldn't be possible. And so this opportunity to provide something for seniors was lost because there wasn't coordination among community leaders. Our seniors are important. They are a wealth of experience and knowledge, and we need to treat them as such. Thank you.
Ken.
I'm gonna circle back to Renee Johnson. In every one of your answers, you have looked people dead in the eye and was proud in your answers, except one, when they asked you about voting for Ms. Bakari. You gave your answer. And I wonder if you're still just as proud of voting for someone who would be carrying on the legacy of someone who has voted consistently and is going on upward to vote even more consistently and powerfully against issues that you seem to want to champion.
So your question is,
Are you still proud of your vote for Ms. Bakari, knowing that she's going to continue the legacy of a husband who voted consistently and has a basic premise against everything that you seemingly say you have confidence and faith and are going to work for?
Again, I don't judge a wife by her husband's work.
That's not what you said earlier.
Yes, you did. Yes, that's what you said. You did. You definitely said that.
No, it's not.
You said it. Yes,
Okay, she answered the question.
Did you?
It was done. It was done.
Okay.
Next question. Done, but I'll talk about it later. No, I said next question.
Okay, that was the last question, and we'd just like for you to give us an ended statement, just to Summation of all in 1 minute.
Thank you.
I understood it.
Pardon me?
We're ready for the summation.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I do want to go back to your question. District 4 has a median income of $80,000. The racial makeup is 40% white, 30% black, and 17% Latino. And I apologize, I didn't have that information off the top of my head. But what I do, I am able to find the resources and get the information, and I will always answer your questions. I've spent the last 5 years fighting for the people of District 4, not the insiders, not the establishment. My opponent is backed by those same interests and developers who profit, while our communities are being left behind and people are displaced. He supported the Unified Development Ordinance, something that I opposed because of the impact and the displacement. He's a part of the system where his vote will be controllable. While he falls in line, I've been the one pushing back, demanding equity in housing, fighting for infrastructure in the neglected areas, fighting for programs like Miss Candy, and giving voice to the ones who are too often overlooked. I led the city's only infrastructure meeting, and I'm sorry it took you 2 years to find it. It is very accessible, and I want to continue to fight for you all so that I can continue to be that voice on council. Thank you.
I think it's so very interesting that for someone who advocates for affordable housing, that they will look at an opponent who does the work that you're advocating for and diminish it. I don't know how you can advocate for affordable housing when you have somebody who does it for a living, to put money on the table, and to then just say, oh, you're in it for yourself. Well, we know that's not true. And then talk about transparency when you formed an organization that has a developer that's the vice president of that organization, who leads their efforts to do the rezoning and land use of District 4 in your organization. You talk about transparency, but you failed to mention that in your last campaign, 40% of your campaign donations came from the development community. So what are we talking about? Transparency is important. You need to know who you're dealing with. And I don't have anything up my sleeve but armpits. I've been in this community for 20 years, been working for 10, and I'm gonna keep working for 10 more. Whether I win or lose, I'm gonna be there. The same can't be said for everybody at the table. Thank you.
I would just ask,
Let's give them a round of applause. We appreciate your comment. We ask you to come back. We're here almost every Tuesday morning, but we'd like to go to the announcements, and we have Miss Jenny Hopper. We have some important announcements, so we're gonna ask her to share her announcements, and then we'll take other announcements. And thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you all. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Jenny Harper. I am the Community Relations Coordinator with the Mecklenburg County Department of Public Information. And I just have a couple of quick announcements I just want to share with the group that I think could be very beneficial, especially for today's meeting.
Quiet, please let her share her announcements.
The first announcement is, since we're definitely talking election business here, absentee ballots. I know that that's not really a big thing, especially in the African American community, but people, absentee ballots are really beneficial because you never know, because life happens, and sometimes you may not be able to get to the polls early. So I am just suggesting that any and everyone continue to try to get an absentee ballot. Those ballots, the last day to request a ballot is Tuesday, August 26th by 5 p.m. You can have the ballot just in case something comes up and you're not able to do early voting or be able to, do that ahead of time. Just consider, or especially for maybe some seniors as well, get an absentee ballot. And you can request that at vote.mecnc.gov. So just keep that in mind. Another thing too with the absentee ballots, those must be returned by election night for the primaries on Tuesday, September 9th by 7:30. Early voting is going to be from August 21st to September 6th. So just keep those dates in mind. August 21st through September 6th is early voting for the primaries. Second announcement is concerning the Homes program. I know that I've been here in the past and talked with you all about the Homes program, which is a program that we offer through Mecklenburg County to assist households with their property taxes if they meet the income requirement. So with the Homes program, a homeowner could potentially receive up to $650 credit toward their tax bill. And we know with the reval going on, this money could be very beneficial to homeowners. So please, if this applies for you, great. If not, please share the information with others that it may benefit. But again, up to $650 credit for those who live within the city of Charlotte. If you live in the town of Davidson, you may possibly be available for an additional assistance up to $534. So again, please keep that information in mind. The deadline to apply for the Homes program is November 21st, and you can apply at that's the number 4, homes at mecnc.gov. Last announcement is for our energy programs. I know I've been here before and talked with you all about our energy programs as well. There is one that is called the Crisis Intervention Program, or what we call CIP or Sept money. This is money that is in place to assist low-income individuals and or families with their heating or cooling costs. We have been waiting on money from Mecklenburg, from the state. We've been waiting since July 1st for those monies to hit. No money came in, but it hit on Friday. So we now have $2 million in SIP funding to assist low-income individuals or families with their heating or cooling costs. So if you know someone that may have heating bills that have accumulated over the winter and they're having issues trying to pay down those bills, or if they're having issues paying these higher summer bills and they have these cooling bills that they need to pay down, please have them apply through Mecklenburg County. They can do that at any of our 3 locations over at the Catherine Wilson or the old Coralt building on Billingsley Road, at our 2 community resource centers, which are the Valerie C. Woodard Center, which is off Freedom Drive, and then also at the L.B. Scarborough Center, which is off of Eastway. Folks can go there to apply, or they can apply online at mecnc.gov/homes. All right, so I just want to share that with you. And if a family is eligible for that, they could receive up to $600 per fiscal year.
The eligibility is, for one is what? You know, offhand?
Well, not right offhand, I don't, but they can go to mecnc.gov and you can see the listing of what the eligibility requirements are. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we allowed her to do this because she had asked permission to do these announcements this morning. Now we'd like to get the other announcements. So Carlene.
People ain't gonna go when people gonna be condescending to people that go over there. People out.
Come on, that announcement.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's very important to a lot of families. Thank you. My announcement is, I know a lot of you do not have school-age children, but if you're grandparents, it is very important that you tell them they need to go. We we do have Power School, but we need to register in Infinite Campus. We have over 100,000 kids who have not done that, and school over 100. And school starts on Monday. It's not that they cannot go to school, but it will be chaotic. So please It's called Just Go to Infinite Campus. And that's where they can register their children. They'll see the form and what they need to do. Please convey that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ricky Mitchell again, and I'm coming on behalf of my wife, Judge Ricky McCoy Mitchell, and she wanted to let you all know that the 4th annual Youth Explosion is going on this Saturday at the Harvey Gantt Center. It's conducted by the Race Matters for Juvenile Justice. Starts at 11 a.m. and it's free to all students. Okay, and I will give it also to our tech person to put on the website.
Okay, I had an announcement. I want to announce the 30th annual Alma Adams Mad Attitude Luncheon and Hat Auction on Saturday, October the 18th, 2025. It is a fundraiser. We have to raise funds to support our Congress people up in Washington, D.C., so she can continue to do the work that she's doing. But you can go online. We're going to put this on the website. Thank you.
I have an announcement. This Sunday, August 24th, we are celebrating Black August with Ronnie Long Freedom Day at Barber Scotia College from 1 to 6 p.m. If you aren't aware of Ronnie Long, he was wrongfully convicted in Concord, North Carolina, served 44 years, wrongfully convicted. Our organization helped get him out of jail, and we celebrate his freedom every year for Black August. I was part of it. So we celebrate his freedom for Black August, and it will be again at Barber Scotia College this Sunday from 1 to 6 p.m.
Okay, and on next Tuesday, we will have District 5 candidates. So we welcome you all to come back with your announcements and just practice asking a question for 30 seconds.
I think the people that need that, they go do the and the 30 seconds includes the question. You don't give a commentary for 30 seconds and answer the question. I know, that's right. We're going to make sure they know that. Y'all have to tell them next time. That's right. Ain't that right? Order to follow the rules, you got to make sure they know.
And I'm done with it. I'm just sorry, but I was wrong. If anybody can be up, you can sit down.